Hey everybody, welcome back to Absolutely Marvel and DC. Today we're going to be talking about Superman and Lois episode 5. I'm Dylan, that's Dan. Benny is still not here with us. He's finishing up his big move into his new house, so he'll be back soon. He says he's going to get caught up on Superman and join us soon, but probably one more week without him. But you got us. You're sticking. What did we say? We're the double D or something.
The double D's.
Yeah.
Everyone loves double D's.
Nothing wrong with that. All right. So last week we talked a lot about how the editing in the 4th episode of Superman and Lois was kind of a nightmare.
Yes.
They fixed it.
I was just about to say that. I was like, I did not ever get that from this episode. I wonder if they did just have a different editor or something.
Somebody told me, I think Mopey told me that like the editor who edited last episode was like one of the staff editors for Batwoman, I think, or something. Or he said something that was like the editor for that episode wasn't the editor for the previous episodes and also was an editor for something else that was bad. So I don't remember exactly what he said.
That was bad. Love it. Love it. Oh, it's funny because it's true.
But yeah, I had no issues with. I was worried, like I was nervous going in because after last week, this did kind of become like when I woke up this morning and was like, "All right, time to watch." I was like, "Oh no, I don't want to. I don't want to watch this show right now." But,
right.
It's weird because this episode I felt was similar to the to episode 3, where they kind of took a break again. Like they slowed down and they didn't throw a million plot points at the wall.
Well, that's because this was the Luthor episode. Because I've noticed every single time we're just like, here's this character. This is the villain you're getting for this episode. We'll get you Kilgrave again in like 4 weeks, maybe. I thought it was a great episode, though. I actually, like, even though it was a little slow at some points, I thought it still kept a good enough pace that at least not the entire episode, I was like, oh my gosh, can we just get to the next thing? Obviously, there were a couple scenes like that because, I mean, that's just the nature on this kind of show. Sure. But I thought it was actually pretty well paced this week. I thought, I'm going to say right now, I kind of called it with the kids of how everything was going to start going Jordan's way and Jonathan was going to start growing some resentment. Yeah. But then, of course, we get the Superman super hopeful and just squashes that. And you're like, oh, but drama.
I mean, I'm all for squashing drama. I like this episode. It was fun. Like I said, the parts of Superman that I like are not the I punch generic gray bad guy this week.
Right.
It's the human side of him, the more intellectual, for lack of a better, like that area where it's like obviously this guy is the most powerful thing on the planet. Like the most boring thing you could do is introduce a villain that's more powerful than him and see him struggle in a physical aspect.
Right.
We've seen that a million times. It's played out. That's set dressing. I don't care about that. What I care about is, especially here, is the family relationship and Clark, struggling with coming to terms with his own personality. And like, there's a through line throughout this episode of really, I feel like, well done, like transition to flashbacks of Clark kind of growing up and realizing that he's outgrown Smallville a little bit as a kid. And I think like Clark coming to the realization, not really the realization, but like talking about how he his decision to leave Smallville and move to Metropolis was selfish. Sort of as a parallel to Jonathan wanting to move back to Metropolis. I thought that was really well done. And that's like... Yeah. That's the interesting side. The psyche of Superman is, I feel like the actually interesting part there.
Right.
And that they have so much in their toolbox here, like with these characters that they can pull out and play with. And I think they're doing that. And I hope they continue to do that.
Yeah.
So
no, I completely agree. Like they're really showing his more human side, I think would be a great way to say it, of there's a lot more they're making him relate to his kids in ways that are not just, oh, you're super powerful, I was super powerful at that age as well. But instead, like you were saying, they're really pushing on that human element of, yeah, he was special, but he felt selfish about his decision to leave home. He missed that time with his mom. Like, they really made you relate to the character a lot more in this episode, I feel. Like, I felt like of all the episodes, this was one where I was like, I can kind of see where Superman's coming from. Like, I can relate to that as opposed to the normal, oh, he's super hopeful and I'm very pessimistic. No, I kid, of course. No, I really did like that aspect to the episode as well. And I liked the villain direction that they're going. I know I'm kind of just jumping all over. I'm realizing my head's like a snow globe of ideas that just got shaken up. Because I really liked the background we got into Luthor this episode.
Yes. I think this is the best we've seen of, like, this. Before this episode, I didn't care about him, but I'm interested. Like, I think the thing that you're hitting on is like his so something that's revealed in this episode is that the Lois of whatever this Luthor's Earth is, they were a thing. They were together. Mm-hmm. I don't really care. I feel like that's a bit played out, but right. I think that's interesting. And just like in the subtlety of his character this episode, I feel like they added depth and like the most, at least for me, like seeing this Luthor, and I don't know the actor's name. I should study up. But him, like he's playing a good Lex Luthor, I think, and he's playing like a Lex Luthor that we is different from the last time we saw Lex Luthor in this universe, which I think like sort of a more like agent, like undercover spy type Luthor, as opposed to the, big billionaire Luthor which contributes to your thing of like, we have classic Lex Luthor in like all these different areas, but also like the actual Lex Luthor is kind of a different one, which is interesting. It's
nice. And I like how much they're going, or at least in this episode, how much they went into his history with Lois Lane, and the fact that they're making it clear that like deep down, this Luthor is not evil. Like they're kind of pushing no, he really is trying to do good. And obviously he just has a bad perception of Superman because of the one that's from his Earth, which I'm really interested to see when they do the subtle drop of what universe he's from, so that we can kind of do the comic relation to which Superman is actually from his Earth. But this episode, with the way that they showed how he feels about his Lois Lane and about this Lois Lane, I think it's going to bring up some interesting directions for them to go, because you can tell he's going to try and protect Lois. So it's going to be interesting, because I have a feeling that we might actually see a Superman and Lex team up in this show. And I am almost certain that they will do the classic, they will fight for a little bit, but then realize they're both on the same side and they will team up. Because his note when he saw Superman fighting against the other powered being person, which was an interesting concept of the I've been resurrected. It almost seemed like they've been putting Kryptonians in the bodies of normal people, which is an interesting very interesting concept, and not one I'm sure I've actually read exactly like this, so I'm interested to see where they go with it. But his surprise at that, I think, is going to add a lot of depth to his perception of supers and metas on this new Earth that he has found himself on. Now, correct me if I'm wrong, or do we know if this is just a Luthor from an alternate universe, or did he move here before Crisis, or is he here because of Crisis? Have they gone into that at all? Do you know?
Careful now. You don't want to remind the writers that Crisis happened. Because
that's what I keep thinking about it. I'm like, because we'll go into Flash later, but that relates to Crisis and memories being lost and stuff. And I was thinking during this episode, I'm like, Is that what's going on here? Like, is he here from Crisis and he just remembers his pre-Crisis Earth? Or
I think, it's a toss-up whether or not this show is actually going to tie back into the larger Arrowverse stuff. Because it really seems like so far they don't really want to. They kind of want to stay self-contained.
right.
Like from the first episode when we were talking about like confusion on the timeline here, like is it just that in post-Crisis Superman and Lois had kids, or is it that this takes place 14 some odd years in the future from Crisis? Like it's
right.
It's confusing from its very foundation where this fits in on the timeline and in this universe. So I don't know. I feel like the angle that they're going with it, with him being coded as like being in a spacesuit and having a spaceship, that he's some kind of just harbinger from another universe,
right.
and he's clearly talked about being from another universe directly to Superman. So like this is weirdly, because post Crisis, I don't know if Flash has caught on to this yet, but I'm pretty sure Flash's status quo is that they are not aware that the multiverse still exists. Because post-Crisis, the status quo for everyone, like there was dramatic irony, right? Because the post-credit scene was seeing that alternate Superman fly and being like, oh, the multiverse still is actually around, even though the whole point of this was to get rid of it.
Right.
And we are seeing the impetus of this show, which is disconnected from the rest of them. It's the show that is like confirming, yes, the multiverse is still around, even though the show that would deal with that, they're all still in the dark. So,
I mean, they even say it in the Flash episode. They're like, no, the multiverse is gone. That's
right.
Like, that's the thing. And so, yeah, it'll be interesting to see if they do put this in a timeline, because I'm actually like genuinely curious, because there are many implications or possibilities of if this was a merged thing. Like, there's just a lot of questions behind that, but that's for a different discussion, I guess.
Yeah, that's what
I just wasn't sure if they had gone into that or not. So
yeah, we could have a whole talk about theories about what the state of the CW multiverse is. Which, that could be fun. I'd be down to do that.
That would be a crazy discussion.
I wanted to circle back to the Lois and Luthor stuff, because something that, like, when Luthor first showed up at the Gazette and was like, hey, I'm a reporter, my name is whatever, your immediate thought is, oh, Luthor's going to kidnap Lois and as a way to entice Superman out. But and I wasn't even thinking about this until like now, this postmortem. They just were like, no, we're not going to do that. We're not going to do the obvious thing. He's just getting close to her because he loves her in some way. Which is, I mean, he could very easily kidnap her, like not actually be like, I'm taking you, but like, coerce her and under false pretenses and stuff. But that is definitely it's more interesting than if, just the classic, like turning Lois into a damsel. Like nobody wants that.
Right.
That's such against that character. Yeah, I thought that was interesting. I think everything about Luthor in this episode is well done. I am the most interested in him. I don't care about Morgan Edge. I really don't care about Kilgrave. Is that his name?
Yes, Kilgrave.
I don't care about like any of the other villains. The Kryptonians being in bodies or whatever.
Yeah.
That was a weird shift. I don't like that, if that is where they're going.
Yeah, because there's so many questions when it comes to that of, are they dead Kryptonians from this universe? Is this proving that the multiverse is still out there and they're grabbing Kryptonians from other multiverses and putting them in people? Like, there are so many different things there, but I actually do want to go back to what you were saying about the Lex Luthor kidnapping Lois Lane, because it made me realize that one thing about this show that I'm actually kind of liking is that they are not doing the stereotypical directions. Like, a lot of things that are going on, when I first see it, I'm like, oh, well, obviously they're doing this so that they can do this classic thing that they always do, so that it'll lead in this direction. but each time they're like, okay, so this is what you're going to expect is going to happen. We're going to go this way instead. And I'm loving it because it's just making me think in very different ways when it comes to theorizing, because I can't watch a show and not come up with theories. Like, I mean, I think that's one of the joys of like watching these kind of shows is where you're like, oh, I don't know what's going to happen, but this could happen. But then, and I like that none of the stereotypes, none of the obvious things are happening. And I'm very interested to see where it's going to go. Because originally I thought that maybe all of the bad guys were going to team up in some way. But now after this one, I'm like, maybe Luthor and Superman team up. Maybe Sam Lane teams up with Morgan Edge for like there are so many different possibilities for what could happen in this show right now that I think it's really fun in that aspect. But at the same time, there's also so much going on that it's kind of hard to keep track. Like trying to just simply list it all out. I'm like, oh, right. They are doing, like they did go into the Operation 7734. Oh, we do have two other villains we're not talking about, as well as the minion of one of the villains who's doing stuff with random people that's not entirely in the direction that we thought it was going to be going, because I don't think they ever truly showed the X-Kryptonite in that device. It was just a random device.
It was there. It was in the Superman. There? Yeah, at the side of the like MRI device or whatever. He points at it. He's like, "What is that?" It's like it's just this yellow like rock thing that's powering it. So they do show it very briefly.
Okay, I thought he was talking about just the machine itself. Like, what the hell's going on over here that you just took this guy out of? But yeah, honestly, I enjoyed the episode. I thought this one was a very solid one. It brought me back from last week's. This one made me go, okay, I can get back into this. Just like,
and I think now that we're 5 episodes deep into this show, and we've kind of got a feel for like the rhythm of this show, which is very roller coastery in terms of quality. I would say we're probably every couple of episodes gonna get a dud, like episode 4, right, just because of it's like, it's Spider-Man 3 syndrome, right? Like there's so much nonsense going on that every few episodes they have to shove everything into this one episode just because the writers have put themselves in a hole where they have 18,000 plates to spin with 2 hands to spin them on, and it's like, pick a lane, right? No pun intended. Like, just like get one villain. Like Luthor and Edge is all you needed. That's and you don't need Sam Lane. You don't need Kilgrave.
I do think Sam is needed because Sam is there for. I feel like his entire purpose is to be the family relationship that's more focused towards Superman, whereas the rest of the family relationship is very heavily focused on Clark.
Sure.
Like I feel like Sam is there, or at least was there at the beginning, to show like this is someone that's focused on the Superman aspect of Clark that does not care about the Clark life, whereas the family is more going, he can do both. Like he really can do both. So yeah. I do feel like he's important. The Kilgrave thing so far makes absolutely no sense. Like, unless it's them going, hey, next season we're going to use this guy. Unless that's going to be what they do. Like, so far, what was the point?
Right.
Like, because even that thing turned into Sam Lane going, this thing Luthor gave me. Like, it was a completely different direction that it went into. So I hope that's not just a throwaway. Like, I hope that they do something with it, but at the same time, I kind of hope it does not happen in this season.
Yeah.
Because we've already got a lot.
I would be totally fine with them just shoving him under a rug and being like, that was a weird detour, let's move on. But yeah, I totally agree with you about the Sam Lane stuff in terms of the family. My problem is when he is now being set up to be a villain and to be like this other pillar that if he teams up with Luthor like right away, then that's, whatever. They basically become one villain with some, they're both complex and have different motives. But now we're also seeing a different side of Luthor to where, like, if he was on this warpath to kill Superman, and he like gave Sam like the information to start up this project, that was like one clear direction they were going in, and now it seems like they're going in a different direction.
Mm-hmm.
And I want to give them credit, right? Like, I want to be like, oh, cool, they're subverting my expectations or whatever. But it's the CW.
Yeah.
So I'm like, it's to me, it reads less as, like, in a vacuum, this episode, Lex Luthor has some interesting motives, and he's an interesting character in this episode. But, like, on a larger scale, I feel like next episode, he's going to be back to just Warpath Superman, wants to kill Superman with no minutia about it. I'm hoping I'm proven wrong, but yeah, I don't know.
See, the whole Superman, the Operation 7734, it gave me vibes of from The Flash when Cisco makes the gun to stop a speedster. And it's the classic, well, if someone evil got your powers, I would want to be able to stop them, but essentially in the process, I created something to stop you, Barry. And I feel like in this one, we might see that same thing where Sam's going to come through and be like, oh, they've been turning people into Kryptonians, basically. I'm going to change that and use this protocol that I have created to essentially stop you, Superman. And he's going to be like, whoa, hold up.
Hold on.
Like, I know you're not a fan of me dating your daughter, but come on, that's a little excessive. No, but I have a feeling it's going in that direction, but I'm so curious about the Kryptonians, because I am strongly certain that that's what they're doing, is something Kryptonian related, because of the fact that Luthor used a red sun bomb to depower them both momentarily, which was an interesting weapon, for the record. I kind of dug it.
Yeah.
Like, I was like, usually we get Superman tricked into a room with like red sun dampeners, but like to turn it into like a rocket launcher, I thought that was kind of cool. The creativity. Luthor has creativity if he's got anything.
For sure. I like that whole scene of like, I like when the plot points intersect. I think that's like, if you're going to have so many like interconnected, things going on, it's only expected and very satisfying to see those like come together. So especially in like a small town when all this is happening in Smallville,
right.
A big like super powered attack happens. Obviously Luthor's gonna be nearby and within earshot. So it was cool he gits in his little van and like goes off. That was a fun scene.
That van, machine. Oh my gosh, that was a nice moment. When I at first when I saw it, I was like, is that all he could afford? And then it starts doing like its advanced tech stuff, and you're like, well, of course. Why would I think otherwise? Oh, it definitely didn't remand me of the Ben 10 van, but that's
true.
I mean, it kind of looked like it. I'm just saying. But yeah, no, like you said, I do like when they do cross like that. I hope when we do get the episode that's going to be packed with it, that it's not overly insane of all the paths crossing, because that's got to happen. I mean, let's be honest, it's got to happen at some point.
They need to just like sit down and really like quantify like what is working and what's necessary, and then put the time on that. And I think what's necessary is Luthor and either Sam or Edge, just basically a villain for Superman and a villain for Lois that are working towards the same goal. Maybe not even like knowingly, right? So they just happen to interconnect. So it's not like nefarious, like Legion of Doom type stuff. It's more just people have similar motives in this world, and the linchpin is Superman. And I think that would be interesting.
Yeah. No, I think that would be really interesting. I'm trying to think of anything else big that happened in this episode. What were you about to say? Not a whole lot
did. I've got a theory that I kind of wanted to run by you.
Okay, let's hear
about the kids. So I've been saying since episode 1 that Jonathan is going to get powers at some point. I'm throwing that out the window now.
Okay.
Because I want...
You know what? Because you said that, I'm wondering if this is close to a theory that I was thinking up too. So keep going.
We'll see. I have a very specific image in my head. Okay, so like something we talked about in this discussion was how this show is kind of going off in a direction that we didn't expect from it, and it's continuing to do that. I think they're going to take that in a very literal sense with the kids. I think that obviously the first thing they did to telegraph this was they gave Jordan the powers, which was obvious. That was, that was not the opposite direction. Of course, they're going to give the one who isn't, it's like screenwriting 101.
Right.
I think they're going to just continue. They're going to lean into that. So they're going to completely role reverse these kids. So at the end of the season, they're going to be in the opposite sides. So, and here's what I think the physical manifestation of that is going to be. Jordan is going to have his powers fully realized, and he is going to become Superboy. And Jonathan is going to find purpose in becoming a Krypton historian.
Okay.
And I think the reason why
that is a very interesting direction, but okay, keep going.
So I like the idea, like the root of that is the weak little like boy who's like the nerd. He's going to become the like big physical guy, and then the physical jock guy is going to become the scholar. Just role reverse. And the reason I had that theory in this episode was because in the flashbacks, the box that Martha gives to Clark with the key to the Fortress of Solitude in it, Clark gives that without the key in it, but Clark gives the box to Jonathan. And I think that is sort of a way, and he's doing that while saying, stay in Smallville for a bit. Like, see if you can find something that tethers you here. And again, I don't know if they're gonna do this. Probably won't. I just think it would be really interesting if we get to see like a Jonathan, like a son of Superman who isn't like, he doesn't really care about Superman, and he doesn't really care about like being powerful and saving Earth, but he's like really interested in the history and lore of Krypton and where his father came from. And I have this image of like Jonathan with spectacles and like a safari hat on that I just want to see realized.
Okay, now that you've put that image in my head, I totally want to see that happen too.
You on board now?
It's actually very, different, like incredibly different from what I was thinking. Because I was thinking, now correct me if I'm wrong again, the guy like completely dissolved after the Red Sun bomb, right? Like he fully died, right?
Probably. He killed himself, I think, is what they said.
So part of me is wondering whether or not they're going to find out that Jonathan is part Kryptonian, and they're going to use him as the one to try and make the Kryptonian power-up machine work. And that's kind of the direction I was going to go because in this episode, I feel like they started to show Jonathan's getting unhinged. Like he got broken up with, he's not playing football anymore. He's no longer really popular or anything like that. And when he was like, oh yeah, I want to leave. Oh, I'm going to drink with these guys and stuff like that. My first thought was someone's going to convince him or trick him into thinking that this is a good idea. And then he's going to basically turn evil. That's kind of the direction I was going, but I kind of want to see him in a safari hat now, though. Right? I can't get that image out of my head. I'm sure
we will both be let down, and that won't happen.
Right.
But I think that would be interesting. I think that would be a cool, like, different take on what you would expect out of the kids of Superman. Like, I want to be surprised, and I want to be surprised, but also I'm trying to like rein in my expectations and found like what I want from this show out of what the show is giving me. Like, like in an ideal Superman show, I don't even know if I would have these kids here, but they're there, so we kind of gotta work with what we're being given.
Right.
But yeah, do you have any closing thoughts on this episode?
Yeah, in terms of what you were saying of the crazy ideas for this, I feel like this is a problem for the CW verse that the Disney Plus shows are causing. Of those shows are showing that there can be big twists that will have big impacts on the bigger universe. And I'm wondering if I'm now looking into these CW shows with that expectation. And I'm wondering if it's going to be positive because it's going to make me realize, oh, wait, no, these are possibilities. Or if I'm going to be let down because I'm like, well, I know that superhero shows could do so much more than this. But overall, great episode. I think I enjoyed this episode. I think it's worth watching. If you were not a fan of the last episode, I think this one may get some of your faith back. I hope that it stays this consistent. I hope that they keep Luthor in this interesting position of he could be good, he could be bad. He's just against Superman at the end of the day. And whether or not he's going to learn that this Superman is different or something like that. I mean, for all we know, Jonathan is the Superman from his universe, and he did go evil, and he turns on the kid or something like that. Which, if that happens now, I called it.
That would be crazy.
Yeah. That's yeah.
I agree for the most part. I think this was a good episode. I think this only proves like kind of what we talked about last week is these shows are always kind of hit or miss. They don't really have great quality control. And I think that's just going to continue to be that way for the extent of this season. But we'll see. We'll be here every week to talk about it until we just can't anymore.
That is true, whether we strongly hate it or the season ends. Which, by the way, do we know how many episodes are in this season?
I think it's 15. So
it's 15. Okay. But it's CW, so we get the mid-season finale kind of thing. Isn't that what they usually do?
I don't know, because COVID, I'm sure, like, messed up everything. Because it's, usually these shows don't premiere, like, at the beginning of the year. They premiere at the end of the year. So we'll see. But anyway, that's going to be it for us here at Absolutely Marvel and DC. Like I said at the top of the show, Benny will probably be here next week. Tune in for the Falcon and Winter Soldier talks that Benny, Sal, and I are going to be doing. I wasn't on the first one, but I'm going to be on them moving forward, probably. I like that show. I just wasn't feeling really good that day.
It was really good
solid show. Dan, we're not here to talk about Falcon and Winter Soldier.
No, we're not. But you should watch it. But yeah, that's beside the point.
Yep. Be sure to like, subscribe, follow. I'm Dylan. That's Dan. And we'll be back next week. See you later.
See you guys.